Alright everyone, welcome back to another fan mail unboxing, and today's package comes from friend and fellow YouTuber Douglas Rowe over in California. This is actually the third package he's sent me this year. He's definitely been very supportive of myself and the channel, and if I'm correct, this package here actually has some stuff he sent me for the holidays. So we'll go ahead and open this up and see what goodies are within. Alright, we'll go ahead and get into this box. And I'm always quite excited when I get a package from Douglas because a lot of times he sends along some really great stuff. And like I said, this again is the third package I've received from him this year. But go ahead and get things open here. And definitely packed full. I'm going to say that is a Christmas card. Set that aside. Take a long collector card. He sent me another Wooden Railway yearbook. That's nice to see. Couple Ertls here, which I recognize these. Don't be fooled. These are... Those have a downside to them, basically. Okay, there's that. Couple other things here. Ooh, this is interesting. Look at this a little bit closer. Something I'm not sure what. Oh, whoa. Okay, Douglas. This box is really packed full of stuff. Wow. There's still more to go. Alright, I might have to speed up the video here a little bit. So it's taken a bit of time to unpack all this and sort through everything and try to make some sense of it all, but it's pretty clear that Douglas definitely sent along a lot of stuff. You can see that we've got quite a few Ertl pieces here, which most of it is mint in the packages. Then there was also this miniature playset that they did as well. Got a little bit of take along stuff here, also this All Engines Go metal engine Toby. Then had a few Bachmann pieces in there as well. Also got the Wooden Railway yearbook, a little bit of Thomas Wood, a Trevor card, a caboose, which I originally thought was something else when I first looked at it. Quite a few capsule play rail pieces. Really looking forward to taking a closer look at those. Then also got, I'm going to say this is probably a Bandai James, along with a Nakiyoshi Salty. And then also the Christmas card that Douglas sent me, which I think we'll take a look at that first. Alright, let's see what Douglas has sent along. If he really likes me, there will be cash inside this card. But we got Santa Claus at the beach, and, well, I'm not seeing any cash, but he writes, "Hi Corey, it's been a blast this year. I'll keep the newsletter trash out of it, but enjoy your Thomas gifts and Merry Christmas, Douglas." Well, thank you, Douglas, for not including the newsletter. It's much appreciated. So that was the card, and now I'm trying to figure out what to look at next. There's just so much here that, I'm kind of thinking to myself, it's like, where do I start? But I think, really, What I'm going to have to go for is obviously looking at the Ertls first, which I think some of you probably called that already. I figured I'd look at the Ertl miniature set first, and this one is Edward at the water tower. And going around to the back of the box here, you can see that there was some other stuff which was available in the range. Some of the engine packs you could get. Some other information down below here. And then on the bottom of the box, I am seeing a copyright date of 1992, but I'm also seeing a date of 1991. I'm not as familiar with the miniature range as I am the larger diecast, but I'm thinking there was one or two of these Ertl miniature sets that was not available in the States. It was only in the UK market. But we'll go ahead and open up the box here, and the set comes out, and looks like the stickers are already put on this one. But I believe everything should be inside this. If I can get the little door, there we go. Yeah, everything is packed away here, so I'll have to go ahead and get it out. Alright, we've got a couple ramp pieces. Looks like Douglas sent along a couple things here. This roof's in the way. There we go. Can't get the other ramp out. Okay, there's that. Oh, okay. Yeah, Douglas actually did send along quite a few pieces with this. Then there's some other stuff which I gotta just kind of stuck in the box at the moment. There we go. Okay, that should be everything. So I'm just opening up these bubble wrap packages here, and we've got a James, and then this one looks like Percy, and I am correct, that is in fact Percy. And lastly, Edward, which would be the one that actually came with this set. And there he is. So there is some assembly to be done here, and the box artwork basically shows where everything needs to go. I think there would have been some paperwork with this, but you know, obviously this is a used set, I guess, so that's not there. There is little pips on the bottom of this shed or tunnel or whatever you want to call it, so easy assembly, I guess, or if you get things around the right way. And then the water tower, which I believe is two separate pieces, that just slips in there. And then this goes right here, and then I guess this has a little pivot so it can turn. And then lastly, the ramps, which go on each end here. Go ahead and put those in place. And I guess that's basically it. Sorry about that, I forgot to put Edward on the playset. And here's the set all put together. You can see how it looks, and of course if you had the other sets you could combine them to make one big Sodor layout basically. But you can see how Edward looks on this set here. And I mean, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be like a tunnel or like a go through engine shed or what have you, but I mean it looks pretty nice regardless. And then of course you got the water tower as well, so I mean it's one of those deals you could basically, well, if I move this around here, you can bring Edward up to the water tower right there. And then of course, well, I guess the tender's a little too tall for that, but you get the idea though. I mean, it's a nice little set, and as it sits right now, you know, you've got these ramps here that you could pretty much go up to the layout, or you could run down to the carpet. So yeah, it's a nice little set basically. And because Douglas also included James and Percy, they can play on this set with Edward as well. Overall, I have to say that really I've always been impressed with the Ertl miniature range, and I did have quite a few of these sets when I was growing up, but unfortunately they were just in such a heavily played with state that really I don't even remember whatever happened to them. But I think it would be nice to see Mattel do something like this these days. I mean, they were kind of on the right path when they came up with the Thomas Minis. However, just they didn't do it for me. They were too similar, I guess, to the capsule play rail stuff, which in my opinion was far more superior, and the minis just couldn't compete with that. But if Mattel were to try to do something similar to the Ertl minis, I can guarantee you that fans would definitely buy this kind of merchandise. Unfortunately, I think what makes this sort of thing less likely to happen these days is just the choking hazards that something like this poses with all the small parts. And I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like you go back to the 90s when this stuff was coming out, you had a bunch of other things like the Polly Pockets, Micro Machines, etc. And, you know, the stuff sold really well. And, I mean, these Ertl miniatures were definitely the same thing could be said about them. But, you know, it's pretty sad when you look back at this and you realize just how good the Thompson Friends brand used to be. I have to say I really enjoyed taking a look at that miniature playset, and it definitely brings back some fond memories from my childhood. But I think we're going to move on and take a look at the bigger Ertls now. And we're going to start with this Mavis and Edward here because, like I mentioned earlier, these two actually have a couple issues. Before I point out what's wrong with this Edward and Mavis, we will take a look at them first. And starting with Mavis here, I've said this before, I really like the portrait packaging. It has to be my favorite packaging and possibly the best one that Ertl ever did because the Owen Bell artwork just had such a charm to it. You can see we've got Mavis right here. There's her name. You got the village in the background and, of course, the landscape and such. Going down to the model, you can see how Mavis is presented in the package. That doesn't look too bad. And then going around to the back of the box, you can see that we've got the collector card and also a collector's list, and then some information in regards to licensing and copyright. And if you want to read any of this, you can pause the video and take a read at your own leisure. But getting on to Edward, again, the nice Owen Bell artwork. You can see how Edward is presented as well. And going around to the back of the box, again, here's Edward's collector card. And basically the same information that was on Mavis's packaging as well. But getting on to the issue that these two Ertls have, and it's so subtle that you really wouldn't notice it until you took a closer look. But these have actually both been made out of a bad batch of die cast. And to prove this, if we look at Edward here, just on the smoke box, you can see that there's a hairline crack right there. And this is even seen over top of the boiler here. You can see there's more cracking going on there. And I'd have to say the tender is probably the worst because if you hold it in the right light, you can see just how badly the paint is cracked on this. And unfortunately, that cracking goes clear down to the underlying die cast. And I mean, that's just what you can see with Edward right now in the packaging. Mavis's condition is definitely worse because if you look on the bottom here, you can see that the side plate on the other side is literally snapped away from the model, and there's even another chunk of it just right here on the bottom of the blister. And I noticed there was all this debris floating around in the box as well. And even looking at the finish of the paint here, you can see that it's bubbling and blistered in spots. And on the back, you've also got the yellow there is cracking too. But, you know, condition is probably not the best with these. And I mean, that's just what you can see. When I see something like this, it reminds me of the Hot Wheels Crumblers, if anyone remembers those. Basically, back in 1971, Mattel had a bad batch of die cast that didn't mix right and had a lot of impurities. And the Hot Wheels cars that were made of that die cast basically, over time, fell apart and basically became nothing but dust. But they were nicknamed Crumblers because of that. And I dare say that Mavis and Edward here are possibly suffering the same fate. Something that Douglas did point out with these is that they both have the same box codes on them, being 1197G. So if you're somebody that collects Ertls and you possibly have some in the portrait packaging and they have that code on them, maybe you can report back to me in the comments on how those are holding up at this time. But one thing I am kind of curious about with these Ertls is whether I should take them out of the packaging to look at them closer or just leave them in the packaging. It's sort of a mystery because, condition of these is definitely not the best, so it's like taking them out of the box might not devalue them. And I mean, in the case of Mavis here, the glue seal is kind of just started to deteriorate already, and I mean, the card's not pristine either. But I think for the time being, though, I am just going to leave these in the box because, I think basically as long as they're sealed in the box, it adds a little bit of credibility to the authenticity of the fact that these are, basically a bad batch of Ertls that came out of the factory. While we're on the topic of Ertls which have issues, here's this Gordon, and you're probably looking at this thinking to yourself, well, what's wrong with it? It looks all right to me. And from this angle, yeah, it looks fine. But if we turn it around here, you might start to see the problem. And if you're still a little confused, let me just zoom in here. And you'll see that on the tender, we've had a bit of a misprint because the yellow for the number 4 here has been placed too low. And because of that, it just looks, well, awful. But I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of happy to have this in my collection because this is actually the first ever factory error Ertl that I've got. And I mean, I'm going to have to see about trying to find a special place for this because, that there does make this a little more valuable to me. And I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm really pleased that Douglas threw this in because it's going to make a great addition to my collection. So Douglas also sent me the Sodor softside truck, which was also known as the Sodor softside lorry. Again, it's in the portrait packaging, and like I said, really like the Owen Bell artwork. You can see how the truck is presented in the package, and going around to the back of the box, we've got the collector card for this, and pretty much the same information that we've seen before as well. But one thing I will say with this Sodor softside truck, though, is the packaging is clearly not in the best condition. It looks like somebody has at some point attempted to open this, and I had to laugh a little bit because the fact that Douglas got me this, and I actually received one here just today, which you can see the packaging on this is in far better condition than this one. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be getting rid of this Sodor softside truck. What I'm planning to do with this is, since it's already partially opened anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and take this out of the packaging and add it to my unboxed Ertl collection, because this one here is dated 1999. The one I have in my collection currently is dated 2001. So the fact that I can have a 1999 original is going to be much better for me than having the 2001, because I like to try to get these Ertls when they first came out. And of course, the Sodor softside truck came out in 1999. So, again, this will be going into my unboxed Ertl collection, and the one that I just got here, this will be going into my portrait packaging Ertl collection. So these are the other Ertls that Douglas sent me in the portrait packaging, and we will look at them real quick here. First one is the biplane, which I think was also known as Tiger Moth. Again, really like the artwork with this. You can see how the plane is presented in the packaging. I quite like this Ertl, especially the design and such. Going around to the back, there is the collector card, basically all the information, again, that we've seen on the other Ertls we've looked at. But then we've also got the Sodor mail van. This might have been known as the Sodor post van as well. Nice old dilapidating mail van artwork right there. And then you can see how it's presented in the packaging. Going around to the back, there's the collector card. And I probably don't need to show the information here again, but I will. And then lastly is Toad here. And I quite like Toad's artwork. Looks really nice. I also noticed this has a price tag of £4 29 pence, so I'm going to guess that this was for sale in the UK at one point. You can see how Toad is presented. And then going around to the back, there's Toad's collector card as well, and then also the information again. And one other thing that I do want to bring up here is that Douglas also sent this collector card for Toad, which this would have been from the Shine Time Station packaging. But quite interesting, they used Toad's Ertl model for the artwork, I guess. But yeah, really happy to have all these new portrait packaging Ertls for my collection. Well, there's another look at all the Ertls that Douglas sent me, and I have to say it's really great to have these ones in the portrait packaging that I didn't have before to add to my collection. And also the Edward, Mavis, and Gordon are quite the curiosity to have, and really quite happy with this miniature playset that he sent me as well, and also the fact that he threw in James and Percy as extras. Kind of want to get into collecting that again, like I said earlier. But, we've looked at all the Ertl stuff. However, there is still quite a bit here that I am yet to cover. And considering this video is cracking up near the 20-minute mark, I'm kind of thinking that for now, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here, and we'll pick up on the remaining stuff in the next part. So you guys just hang tight, and I will see you in a bit with part 2.